One loss, two very different press conferences. After the Browns dropped a winnable game to the Jets, something cracked. Kevin Stefanski stood behind the mic and kept it vague. Play calling didn't click. We'll have a chance to talk to Tommy, and plenty to build on. But the message was clear between the lines. Offensive Coordinator Tommy Reese was getting the heat. Then Reese spoke, and he didn't duck. He acknowledged the misses, respected the process, but also made it known he didn't build the game plan alone, and he didn't control the quarterback decision that shaped the entire night. He was handed the personnel. His headset had limits, and the quarterback he wanted on the field? Reports suggest Kevin Stefanski made sure that didn't happen. Now fans are asking the real question. Was Reese being set up to fail? Behind the scenes, rumors hint at a Powie divide. Stefanski handed off play calling but never let go of control, especially around Shedeur Sanders, who Reese reportedly pushed for during the bye, only to watch Dillon Gabriel start again. Now with the team under fire, Stefanski is redirecting blame to protect the big chair. But is this about play calls or power plays? Because the locker room's watching. Garrett's frustrated. Judy is speaking up, and the sideline has started to split quietly between what is and what everyone thinks should be. Two mics, two men, two very different takes. Kevin Stefanski stepped to the podium first, calm, polished, and predictable. We had opportunities. Not perfect in any facet. Plenty to build on. But when asked about the play calling, his tone shifted. Suddenly, all arrows pointed subtly but unmistakably toward Offensive Coordinator Tommy Reese. You'll have a chance to talk to Tommy this week. It wasn't outright blame, but in NFL coach speak, that phrase has weight. It signaled, ask him, not me. And just like that, the post-game narrative shifted. Fans and media began dissecting Reese's calls, offensive setup, red zone execution, while Stefanski stepped back into the shadows. But Tommy Reese wasn't waiting to be the fall guy. When he spoke, his tone was measured but cut deep. He praised his staff. He talked about player effort. Then he pointed out the obvious. He didn't handpick the starters. He didn't control the setup. The game plan had fingerprints above his pay grade. And Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback Reese had poured time, coaching, and quiet faith into, wasn't even an option. Reese has been clear. Shedeur's mind for the game is sharp. His preparation has been relentless, and his command in practice keeps improving. While Stefanski spoke about injury limitations and development timelines, Reese was talking readiness and rhythm. The disconnect? It started looking less like a disagreement and more like a setup. So fans are wondering, did Stefanski give Reese the headset but keep him on a leash? Was the OC set up to own a game plan that didn't include the player he believed in? And when it failed, was he handed the fault while Stefanski preserved his authority and narrative? This was no miscommunication. It was scripted tension. From the moment one press conference shielded blame, and the other refused to hold it alone. But this silent rift didn't start post-game. It began quietly during the bye, with a power move that changed everything. It started with a promotion. Stefanski handed off play-calling duties to Tommy Reese during the bye week. A move framed as collaborative, even refreshing. But behind the scenes, control never actually changed hands. Reports suggest that while Reese got the headset, Stefanski quietly kept the keys. Personnel decisions, especially at quarterback, were never truly open for debate. Reese may have built the call sheet, but Stefanski dictated who that call sheet was built around. That's where Shedeur Sanders enters the story. Reese wanted him involved. Sources say he prepped a package. He liked what he saw in practice. Progression speed, play-action rhythm, command. Teammates took notice. Even media caught his name climbing up in pressers. All signs pointed to one thing. Shedeur should at least see the field coming out of the bye. But instead, Dillon Gabriel kept the job. He needed to continue developing. But behind closed doors, insiders claim Stefanski had no plans to let a quarterback switch fracture his grip on the locker room or his role in managing this rebuild. Reese was reportedly told to stick with the plan. The plan wasn't his. So what happens when you give a coordinator the responsibility, but not the power? You create a fall guy. And when the offense crumbles, it's suddenly not about who made the decisions. It's about who called them. That put Reese in a no-win situation. Either back the coach and absorb the fallout, or challenge the hierarchy and risk his own standing. Game day showed us which route he took. But sometimes rebellion doesn't come out loud. It appears in how an OC praises the quarterback he believes in, and the one he wasn't allowed to use. And that quiet defiance built toward the question no one could avoid. Why didn't Shedeur play? It kept coming up, quietly, then publicly. Why isn't Shedeur Sanders seeing the field? Tommy Reese had nothing but praise. In practice, impressive. In meetings, locked in. He's put a lot of work and time and effort into that, Reese said, referencing Shedeur's progression in mastering the Browns' offense. He made it clear, the game is starting to slow down for him. That's not the kind of comment a coach makes about someone miles away from being ready. It's something you say when you're laying the groundwork for a change. Reports suggest Reese was, in fact, preparing a limited package for Shedeur, built around play action, bootlegs, and quick reads tailored to his skill set. Something controlled, not experimental. Something that could push a stagnant offense into new rhythm. But that plan reportedly never made it out of the meeting room. Stefanski, according to insiders, dismissed the idea outright. Shedeur wasn't 100% or needed more time. Whatever the reason, the decision was final. Dillon Gabriel would start again. And so Reese was stuck, running a system around a QB he didn't choose, calling plays for an offense he didn't fully believe in. Then came the loss, the media storm, and Stefanski's subtle shift of responsibility straight into his lap. Reese didn't lash out, but his message resonated. You can't judge the play calling if you never let him call the game his way. Meanwhile, Shedeur continued to prepare like a pro, repeating the same pattern, ready but not trusted, praised but not played. Every week, he stood in shoulder pads and silence while the offense struggled in neutral. And by now, even teammates were starting to notice. Blame is easier to hand out than game film. Kevin Stefanski pointed to the offense's execution. The box score showed a standard mix of conservative numbers. Under 200 yards passing, 2 scores, 6 sacks. On paper, manageable. But on tape, predictable. Defenses weren't just guessing. They knew. The problem wasn't just missed plays. It was a game plan built for a quarterback who never stretched the field. Dillon Gabriel spent most of the game operating in a compressed space. Short throws, shallow reads, little to no pressure on the secondary. And once the Jets figured it out, they brought heat, a lot of it. 6 sacks tells you the line struggled. The film tells you routes never scared the defense backward. That's not a failure of design, it's a failure of fit. And according to multiple insiders, Reese had designed another option, a package tailored for Shedeur. Quick boots, layered play action, under center rhythm. A look that would have redeployed this offense vertically and forced defenses to respect the seam. Instead, Reese was told to call a game through someone else's lens, then blamed when the picture stayed fuzzy. This wasn't just a poor performance. It was a flashing sign that said the current offensive formula isn't feared. And when defenses stop respecting your spacing, your execution stops mattering, which is why the offense isn't the only room getting restless. When your stars start talking, silence stops being a strategy. Myles Garrett said it plainly, "I'm frustrated. I want to win. I'll do anything." That kind of blunt honesty doesn't need interpretation. It is the message. Coming from anyone else, it's venting. Coming from the heart of your defense, it's a warning. And he's not alone. Rumors suggest wide receiver Jerry Jeudy has privately and now publicly voiced frustration with the offense, particularly the lack of urgency around Shedeur Sanders. Insiders say Jeudy is among a growing group of players who don't understand why Sanders hasn't been given real game reps, especially with the offense struggling week after week. His exact words reportedly question not only the quarterback situation, but the philosophy behind it. Why keep running the same thing and expect different results? This isn't about locker room rebellion. It's reality. Players like Garrett and Jeudy know what winning looks like. They've been in rooms where signs of change were embraced, not buried under development timelines or cautious pressers. And when your vets see that a young quarterback is putting in the work, mastering the system, and still getting zero opportunity, faith in the process starts to split. Garrett sounds done with excuses. Jeudy sounds done with waiting. Blame can be shuffled between staff, but morale lands at the feet of the head coach. And right now, that floor's starting to crack. The longer the current formula stays untouched, the more the leadership structure bends under its own stubbornness. And it turns out, this isn't just about Shedeur or Dillon. It's about what the Browns actually believe football is. At some point, playing it safe becomes playing not to win. The Browns have stuck with a comfort-first philosophy all season. Familiar quarterback, simple game plan, limited room for risk. It's the kind of strategy that keeps things steady when you're winning. But when you're not, it quickly turns into stagnation. And players can feel it. Activation without adoption. It's the phrase circling behind the scenes. You dress Shedeur. You praise his work ethic. You hint he's part of the plan. But there's no package, no trigger, no real trust. That's not planning for success. It's hedging against criticism. And it's a dangerous middle ground that confuses the locker room more than it calms it. Reese, according to reports, had outlined a low-risk Shedeur package: under center, play action, boots, Kempo looks, plays that stress the defense differently. It wouldn't require declaring a QB change, just defined reps, clear criteria, and accountability the team can see. Instead, the Browns went with business as usual. And the results? Predictable. Conviction doesn't mean chaos. It means deciding what you stand for on the field. Stretch the field vision or safe, short throws. Dynamic playmaking or damage control. Right now, the Browns keep choosing the floor over the ceiling. And that's not something lost only on fans. Players know when the plan lacks guts. They know when the coaching staff is more worried about protecting their seat than pulling the trigger. Eventually, doing nothing is the decision. And in Cleveland, that decision is starting to wear thin in a very real way. The locker room isn't the only place feeling the tension. Upstairs is crunching numbers too, and not just on third down efficiency or red zone scoring. This is fallout math, the kind ownership and the front office calculate before it shows up in headlines. Start with the rookie window. Every game Shedeur Sanders doesn't play, teams don't just need production, they need evidence. And unless tape exists, value stays hypothetical. Then there's the optics ledger. Fans can accept growing pains. They won't accept static. When a quarterback is performing underwhelmingly and your first-round pick is suited up but sidelined, frustration escalates from conversation to campaign. Especially when respected voices in the room like Myles Garrett and Jerry Jeudy start chiming in. From a business perspective, there's also continuity risk. If the team drags through the season without change, you risk losing locker room trust. And that leaks into everything: ticket sales, free agency pull, culture reset timelines, and most importantly, top-tier talent begins questioning whether the trajectory is forward or flatlined. That's why the smartest owners don't wait for mutiny. They apply governance. They don't demand chaos. They implement clarity. Example, a defined Shedeur package with triggers baked in, 2 scoreless quarters, 4 first-half sacks, or 3 three-and-outs. Rookie reps don't have to be dramatic. They just have to be intentional. Because if you don't plan your evaluation points, you inherit them on someone else's terms, usually with a leaking locker room and empty answers. And by Sunday, the signs will show whether those upstairs numbers turned into on-field action. If something's shifting inside the Browns facility, We'll see it before kickoff, and not just in the lineup. The first tell is all about reps. Watch the reporters this week. Are there any signs Shedeur is getting team period work? Not garbage time scout reps, real script reads with protection calls and live tempo. If his work stays in walkthroughs, it's status quo. If it jumps to team installs, that's your first signal. The second tell, language. Coaches love vague phrasing when they're buying time. We'll evaluate. He's preparing like a pro. We'll see. But if we suddenly hear words like package, up, or he's earned a look, that means the trigger isn't just theory. It's on standby. Then there's the depth chart. If Shedeur is still listed as emergency quarterback, behind the starter and a backup, it's smoke. But if he slides up to QB2, the window's cracked. Pre-game workflow can't be faked. Who's warming up with the ones? Who runs under center keepers in skeleton drills? And if the play script opens with heavy personnel, under center looks, or tempo plays, that might not be about the starter. That might be about the package. And finally, players talk without talking. Start watching the tone. Captains praising command, energy, or next man ready mentality are usually leaning toward a shift. If the same play it safe language resurfaces, expect another week of nothing. But the moment is coming. If not this week, then soon. One snap, one call, one read. The game will tell us what the press conferences won't. Floor, ceiling, or drift, the Browns are at a familiar crossroads, but the stakes feel different now. After a brutal loss, a sharpened spotlight, and press conferences that sounded more like press maneuvers, the divide isn't just about quarterbacks. It's about what kind of team this really wants to be. Kevin Stefanski is defaulting to comfort, the quarterback he knows, the scheme he trusts, and the philosophy that's gotten him this far. But the losses are mounting. The ceiling is shrinking. And the locker room? It's starting to speak. Myles Garrett wants answers. Jerry Jeudy wants Shedeur. And Tommy Reese, once quiet, is now clearly done taking silent blame for plays he wasn't allowed to fully design. On the other side, you've got an unplayed card in Shedeur Sanders, a QB who shows elite command in practice, built for movement, tempo, and attacking the field vertically. The OC wants him. Teammates respect him. Ownership, they're watching the window close, with no proof of what they've actually got. That leaves Cleveland with three options. Stick to the floor and hope it doesn't collapse. Trade the mystery and risk paying for it later. Or install a small, controlled package and find out today what your tomorrow could look like. Because eventually, doing nothing is the decision. And the locker room, the film, and maybe even the owner's suite are ready for clarity. Any clarity. So now it's your call. If you're holding the headset, what's your move? Stick, fold, or play the rookie? Comment your take below. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want the truth behind every headline, every week.